What would you do if your boss, after working you to the point of hospitalization, tried to frame you for their own incompetence just to save their job? In today's story, the protagonist's response is a masterclass in how to handle it. For my entire life, I've been a people pleaser, almost to a crippling degree. I've been in the marketing world for over a decade now, and in that time, I've worked for all kinds of bosses, the good, the bad, and the ones who just plain sucked. But there's one who stands out from the rest, a true nightmare in corporate attire. This all went down about 5 years ago. Her name was Veronica, and she was the VP of Marketing and Sales for a mid-size retail company. She joined the company a couple of years after I did, and the rumor mill was already churning. Word was, she was the fourth choice for the VP position, hired only to appease some shareholders. I was a manager working directly under her. My job description was extensive. I handled the merchandising for the website and all the physical stores, distributed monthly sales materials, managed the advertising budget, and project managed every single departmental initiative. I built the reports that tracked sales, created presentations, wrote creative briefs. Basically, I did my job, her job, and all the administrative grunt work that kept the department from collapsing. It got to the point where I had access to her email and would frequently send messages on her behalf just to keep things moving. And what did Veronica do with all her free time? She'd saunter in after 10 a.m., take long business lunches, and spend hours planning company parties. I was the one who actually planned them, of course, and I constantly questioned why we were hemorrhaging money on these lavish events when our actual marketing budget was bone dry. Her solution was simple and deeply unethical. She told me to pull from the budgets of future months to cover our current overspending. So, every month became a shell game. I'd start with a real, original budget, and by the end of the month, I'd be forced to submit a heavily edited version, all under Veronica's explicit direction, that painted a fantasy picture of her fiscal responsibility. Remember that detail. It becomes critical later on. I was drowning. Juggling that many tasks meant I was bound to make mistakes. I was pulling 12-hour days, split between the office and my home, working long after my kid was asleep. Weekends were no different. I'd squeeze in work before my family woke up and after they went to bed. Then came Veronica's first major holiday season with the company. It was a catastrophe. Sales were in the toilet. She was a whirlwind of indecision, constantly changing her mind about the in-store visual displays. She kept bringing in new advertising and PR agencies, all conveniently run by her personal friends, to boost sales. She completely ignored the carefully planned promotions from our experienced buying team, substituting them with her own better ideas that invariably flopped. The stress finally caught up with me in the worst way. I had been fighting a stubborn infection that, under the immense pressure, spiraled into sepsis. I was hospitalized, and the doctors were blunt. My husband echoed their words. The stress from my job was literally killing me, and I had to take a real break. Lying in that hospital bed, I had a moment of painful clarity. I was destroying my health, neglecting my family, and for what? To prop up a company and a boss that were exploiting me. But old habits die hard. A few days in, I found myself reaching for my phone, logging into my work email, and then hers. And what I discovered made my blood run cold. It started innocently enough. I saw a receipt for a lovely bouquet of flowers from upper management, wishing me well. I knew Veronica had organized it because they were her favorite flowers, not mine. I went into her inbox to file the receipt for accounting. That's when I saw them, a string of emails at the top of her inbox from the last few days that were clearly not work-related. This revealed Veronica's greatest fatal flaw, a toxic blend of laziness and arrogance. She believed she was untouchable, never imagining that the very person she exploited was meticulously, if unintentionally, documenting her downfall. I opened the first thread. It was Veronica, complaining to her personal friends about me. She was griping about how I couldn't just shake off sepsis and get back to work. She whined that she couldn't find any of my notes, spreadsheets, or documents, the very work she was supposed to be in charge of. They were all on our shared drive, in folders labeled with blinding clarity. Then I found the second thread. This one was with an old colleague from a previous job. In it, Veronica was desperately asking for advice on how to generate sales and save her own job. The colleague asked if anyone was managing the bulk of the work, and Veronica, of course, named me. The colleague's advice was chilling. They said it was clearly my mismanagement causing the poor sales and that I could be blamed if things didn't turn around by the end of the season. Veronica mentioned I was in the hospital on emergency medical leave. The friend replied that she couldn't fire me outright because that would look like retaliation, but, they suggested, if Veronica could prove I was stealing company funds or misusing resources, she would have grounds to fire me and use me as the perfect scapegoat. Suddenly, it all clicked into place. The budget manipulation, her insistence that I make the changes. She was setting me up to take the fall for her financial misconduct. When I returned to the office, Veronica called me in, with a mask of fake concern. She said she was worried I was taking on too much and wanted to take some work off my plate. The first thing she announced she was taking over, managing the department budget. She handed me a small stack of invoices and told me my only job was to drop them off with accounting. Then came the warnings. Under no circumstances was I to speak with accounting about the budget, and if I had any concerns about my workload or the department, I was forbidden from going to HR. I had to speak directly with her. Oh, I could see exactly where this was going. Unfortunately for Veronica, she had underestimated me. She didn't know about the strong rapport I'd built with Carol, our main accountant. Carol was a sharp, no-nonsense woman in her 50s who had seen it all. She'd told me on multiple occasions that if I ever needed anything, she'd do everything in her power to help me. As a commenter on my story later put it, this is exactly why the phrase, cover your ass, needs to be drilled into everyone's head when they enter the workforce. I had done the work to protect myself, all because my boss so arrogantly tried to throw me under the bus. My moment had come. I went back to my desk and picked up the stack of invoices she wanted me to deliver, but I added a few things to the pile. I printed the email threads I'd found in the hospital. I printed the current month's unedited budget, the one from before her creative accounting. Then, I went to my filing cabinet and pulled out the goldmine, hard copies of previous month's budgets, covered in Veronica's own handwriting with explicit notes on what numbers to change. As a final touch, I added an email from our very first round of budget adjustments, where Veronica had subtly threatened to replace me if I couldn't do what she asked. I walked to the accounting department, my heart pounding. I saw Carol and bumped into her. She started to ask me about the invoices, but I cut her off. Looking at her with a dead serious expression, I said, loudly enough for others to potentially hear, Carol, Veronica has made it very clear that she is the only one in our department you are allowed to talk to about our budget and invoices from now on. This was the point of no return. A single, thick file folder, passed from one trusted colleague to another, was about to unravel an executive's career. My message was crystal clear. Carol's eyes flickered down to the suspiciously thick file folder I placed on her desk, then back up to mine. She gave me a single, firm nod, and then lovingly, but firmly, kicked me out of her office. Less than a week later, Veronica was fired. The CEO and the head of HR called me into the main office. They personally apologized for everything I had been put through and gave me a paid 1-week vacation to take whenever I wanted. I stayed at the company for another year, but given everything that had happened, I eventually moved on. Which brings me to today. I'm a manager for sales and marketing again, in a much healthier environment. I have a fantastic boss, David, who trusts my judgment and has my back on everything. We're currently hiring for my team, a team that I will manage and direct myself. Today, while sifting through applications, a name jumped out at me, Veronica. I stared at it, thinking it had to be a coincidence, but upon reviewing the resume, there was no doubt. It was her. She had clearly tumbled down the corporate ladder. That VP title at our old company was still the highest she'd ever achieved, and to absolutely no one's surprise, her resume was a work of fiction. She claimed all the projects I had managed as her own achievements. The best part? She claimed she had generated an 87% sales growth during that disastrous holiday season. As one person later commented, I should have called her and said, "Hello, Veronica? The resume in front of me says this person increased holiday sales by 87%. I know that couldn't have been you." I would definitely have remembered a stunning number like that. It also says they improved the budget process, but since I remember you fudged the numbers to cover your lack of skill, that couldn't have been you either. While the thought was tempting, and I would have loved to see the look on her face, I felt it would have risked my new boss's trust in my professionalism. As a lifelong people-pleaser who believes in second chances, I have never felt such a pure, satisfying joy as I did in that moment when I clicked the disqualified button. This story is a powerful reminder that in the professional world, keeping records and maintaining your integrity isn't just good policy, it's your ultimate shield. Sooner or later, the truth finds its way out, and karma always keeps the receipts. So, I'll leave you with this question: what would you have done? Would you have just clicked disqualified? Or would you have brought her in for one last, unforgettable interview?